Hi, everyone. Welcome back to the channel here for some Paper Pioneer. I'm with Jay, and we're straight into it, Jay, with Mono Black versus Rakdos Mid.
Yeah, so looking at the mono black deck list, we don't actually have it in front of us, but we know sort of what they're playing. They're playing a sort of devotion deck list where they play a load of black one drops or two drops, and then the curve ends, I believe, with Mogus Marauder that will give all the creatures haste and intimidate, which means that they can only be blocked if they're artifact creatures or share a color with it. And if you're wondering what these three creatures are, they are Mardu Shadowspear, which when it attacks, the opponent loses one life. Night Marker Lookout, which is the one all the way to the left, which when it's tapped, the opponent loses one life and you gain one life. And then Blood-Soaked Champion, which can be returned from the graveyard, is one of those. And so the Rakdos midrange player is just choosing to Bone Crusher one of the creatures.
So, despite the fact on the right we're seeing very much stock top of the meta Rakdos mid range, you don't exactly prepare for this every day, right? One drop black aggro tribal. You don't necessarily see it on the other side that often.
Yeah,
So
and now
it's
they
coming
all
straight
have
in,
haste and
and it
intimidate.
wow. So that's a lot of damage coming straight at them. Um, this is one of those classic in game one. You just scoop it and say go and have a look at your sideboard. I think there's not going to be like a main like a for Rakdos range. There's not going to be like
Yeah,
any main deck
Rakdos
sweepers.
midrange does not play any main deck sweepers. Oh, yeah, you're right. They just pack it in. Too much
And
damage too quickly. I mean, next turn they'll be able to attack with the four creatures again, and then, two of those creatures deal damage just by attacking / tapping. Makes it very difficult to deal with.
absolutely.
What does oh, I just saw one of the cards that Rakdos midrange just brought in.
Well,
Actually, very good, and as part of the sideboard, because of Boros Convoke, it's Hidetsugu Consumes All. And
I
if you don't
was
know what that is, it's a saga, and the first stage destroys all non-land permanent CMC 1 or less.
absolutely was going to say this deck is probably going to get hated on here in our post sideboard, thanks to the fact that Boros Convoke is incredibly active. We've seen a very beautiful Judge playmat on the left here. Bit of context, yeah. Magic Juncture, very highly favored. Bringing out some cards from yesteryear when Grand Prix Las Vegas was an actual thing. I don't even know when the last Grand Prix Las Vegas was. Um, Maybe these cards were even standard legal at that point.
Yeah, I mean, the playmat looks a bit faded. It looks quite old. And all of these cards that they're playing are quite old.
And
None of
the insight we have from the actual play here was that this whole deck is they used the term street valued, which is interesting, but is card market value, should we say, at less than $20. So great little bit of interest in deck brewing here at regular F&M at Cardiff Firestorm Games, and you can join us down in the description with how to come and play with us any Friday night.
but it shows how open of a format Pioneer is. When you can pay 20 quid, build a deck, it's not the most optimal deck by any means. It's got some weird card choices in, admittedly, some cards that not everyone has just seen. And it can take a game off Rakdos midrange. And Rakdos midrange, them are getting down to 6. Maybe they'll lose the second game, and Mono Black Devotion Intimidate will have taken 2 games over one of the best decks in the current meta.
And it would be absolutely the way forward and clickbaited all over the internet and never played again. But we're here for different types of magic here on the channel, 3 to 4 times a week. They're gonna hopefully get a decent enough play. I mean, you could see Hizusuku's consumed all day. It was definitely there. I wonder if they can have the lands to hit it. Definitely a different matchup if a sweeper appears.
Yeah, so here we see a turn 1 Gutter Bones, less of an aggressive start maybe. But there we go. A 2-1. And actually a 2-1 right here is pretty well positioned because it would trade with that Blood Tithe Harvester.
True, very true. They're letting it go.
First 2 bits of damage, and we're gonna see 2 1-drops. So exactly the same as last game. Open up with a 1-drop, turn 2 1-drops, and it does look like they have Mogus's Marauder there as well. Oh, and here we see the turn 3 Hidetsugu consumes all. And interestingly, it's not just stage 1 that affects everything. Exiling all the graveyards in stage 2 actually does make a difference because they do play Gut Bones and Bloodsoaked Champion, cards that can be returned from the graveyard. So they potentially may want to get those cards out of the graveyards while they still can.
Yeah, they dry up on resources incredibly quickly with mono black with lack of card draw. So yeah, you can see that. That's the thought process.
Yeah, I mean, if you're gonna play 3 cards on by turn 2, you're not gonna have that many cards left in your hands. So if those 3 cards go down the drain to 1 card, it's definitely it feels bad.
But the pedal's gone back on the gas. Which card is this? I am all of a blaze.
Yeah, so this is Gnarled Scarhide. It's a 2/1. It can't block, and it's got Bestow for 4 mana. I'm not sure why they tapped 2 and what they did, but it seemed to have dealt some damage from their hand by revealing something. I'm not too sure.
A bit of a fatal push action. We're
I
gonna
think
see it.
for Rakdos Midrange, this is a matchup where you race, and right now they are going to win that race. Bloodtide Harvester hits for 3 each turn. Hidetsugu consumes all does eventually turn into a 3/3.
Sure does. A point and fail push. Waiting for the damage. Waiting for the trigger. They down to 1 card in Mono Black's hand here.
Yeah, I'm not sure what that card is, but I don't think it can get them out of this. It looks too bad.
Yeah,
Here
and
we
this
see Hidetsugu flip.
the flip of Hidetsugu is a rather dangerous card as well. A couple of turns and you've just lost the game.
Yeah, it's a 3/3. Whenever it deals damage, not just to a player but also to creatures, you put a counter on it, I believe. And it's got trample, and when it deals 10 or more damage to a player in a single turn, you win the game, I believe. But it just grows, and especially against a deck which is all small creatures, it's very hard to deal with. It having trample is actually quite relevant here, because I suspect the mono black player is nearing death with the Bloodtithe Harvester attacks each turn.
Sure, and maybe they play it out. This is a deck that was having one of its first FNM run out, so they may want to see like, is there a line? But I think this we are steering down game 3.
I think potentially one thing they could have brought in from the sideboard, maybe they did, would be Thoughtseize, just to be able to take out those sweepers. If they can turn 1 Thoughtseize and take that Hidetsugu consumes all, it could be a slightly different game. The Hidetsugu was a 3-for-1, so it made a big difference to the outcome of this game.
Sure did. Big dent in everything that was happening in the game plan. So, and we're back on the board. And can you deal? Was the question, and the answer was yes, yes, I can.
Ooh, so a power word kill and a stomp. The thing is they wouldn't have even been able to attack because the Vessel of All Consuming is a 3/3 and is black, so would be able to block.
I think we're going with the team here.
Interestingly, doesn't choose to attack with Bloodtithe Harvester, which is interesting. I presume they just don't want to trade with the Marauder, although you're on the front foot here as Rakdos Midrange. Your opponent's down to a very little life total. I reckon you just push and get the game done with. I don't think there's anything that the mono black player can bring out here to bring the game back in any meaningful way.
Nope, and that's why they scoop. Keeping back knowledge of what that last card was.
It looked to just be another 1-drop.
So, who rolls the initiative into turn 3? Do we see the mono black player just stomp down a turn 3 win, or are we gonna just see the cyborg plan from Rakdos succeed?
Yeah, I think being on the play also helps. So this turn 3 mono black being on the play is going to help a lot for them, and so they may just want to be able to get turn 1 creature, turn 2 2 creatures, turn 3 Megasis Marauder, and hopefully that'll cause enough damage. It's interesting that both players are choosing the sideboard again. This may be due to seeing more of the decks, or maybe due to the on the play versus on the draw.
Yeah, it'd be interesting. What did they take out? Didn't get the knowledge of that.
It looked like they might have taken out Bank Busters
Oh,
from the main board and put in Colligan's commands. I could be wrong, but just from that brief glimpse, that's what I gathered. And
it,
Colligan's command wouldn't be that bad because the 2 damage does destroy pretty much every creature on the mono black side, and making them discard a card is just more value.
it looked like Colligan's command, right? I'm not too sure just what came out.
This Rakdos mid-range player does run Colligan command in the sideboard. So potentially that could be what it was.
Interesting. Well, all shuffled up on the mono black side. Um, nice to see. Nice to see some off meta success here.
Agreed. It is nice to see, and I think that is a barrier to entry in a lot of formats. Things like even Commander can be quite competitive. It can be very hard to compete with a lower priced deck compared to these people who have these insanely high priced cards and these really cool combos and everything. So it's nice that you're able to sort of homebrew something. An aggressive deck is always going to catch someone off guard,
Oh,
and
totally.
we're looking at both players milliganing. What were you saying, Dave?
Who does it? Well, who does this benefit? Who does this benefit going down to 6 here? Obviously, more options for Rakdos staying at 7, but going down to 6, as long as you fade 4Cs, like the mono black player could like have their whole hand on the board by the time we get to turn 2. So
Yeah, I think Mono Black prefers to go down to 6 more than Rakdos Midrange does, just because they don't really need that many cards to win. They just want to vomit their entire hand out onto the battlefield. Whereas Rakdos Midrange, has a lot of 1-for-1s, so maybe they'll care more. But I'm not sure. With them both going down to 6, it's basically as even as it was, and we see there that they do have removal in their deck. Mono Black just put away a Fatal Push onto the bottom of the deck.
one drops they go. Gonna take the damage and not do anything with it yet. No, yeah, okay.
Probably a Fatal Push, and there we go.
2 more one drops on the board. I do like the one drops that the player style of tapping both lands and then with one hand shoveling 2 1 drops onto the mat. That really asserts dominance.
It does. I also appreciate how fast the Mono Black player plays. They've accepted that they're an aggro deck, and they've decided, I'm going to play this 1-drop, I'm going to play these 2 1-drops, and they don't spend too much time thinking about it.
Yep, we love to see it. We have much love though for all the players, the fast players and the slow players. But yeah, when you're decisive, it really helps the commentary.
So here's Blood-Soaked Champion coming back from the graveyard.
And this is been a heck of a lot of damage already so far. We are into single figures, I believe.
Wait a second. Rakdos Midrange missed their land drop.
They did. They did.
And so they're doing this pre-combat because of the creature's attack trigger dealing damage, or for that creature, it's the tap trigger that will deal a damage and gain them a life.
So they've hit a land, but it's a blood crypt. So
yeah, I mean they probably want to.
that's down
Yeah,
to 5. I know.
I reckon they're gonna do that just so that they can stomp.
Yeah.
And then it looks like they've got a powered kill in their hand. So it looked like a good hand. They just really needed that second land.
But The one of our players just has a hand, vomits it out, and I just don't think
They
they have it.
really needed that land earlier. It looked like they have Extinction Event in their hand,
They do. They
which
do have.
would wipe the board. Oh, Graveyard Trespass is pretty good. It gains them a life, and it stops the creature coming back from the graveyard.
At the moment, though, it only takes them back up to 5.
It also does provide a blocker at least, so it's not a complete loss. It does definitely save them for a turn.
Oh, removal. Needs to discard a card. Just learning about the ward cost.
And that card there, Dark Betrayal, I believe it says destroy target black creature.
And that's
So
GG.
really good sideboard for that, and yeah, and they had another removal. They had the Marauder in hand, the Rakdos midrange player showing the Extinction Event.
So in this game, 1-drop tribal comes out on top, just doing aggro things. Just speechless, really. I'd love to see more of this deck. I'd love to see more innovation, and that's why the format's so great. You can put some cards together with a good set of synergies and come along any given FNM, compete, and win yourself some packs.
Yeah. It looked like they brought 3 Dark Betrayals in from the mono black side, and it was a little bit of Graveyard Hate and then Sweepers for. Oh, it's Languish. I believe that may be what was brought in that we thought was Colligan's command. So yeah, they brought in Sweepers, and they were just hoping to hit them. I do think that. Oh no, they did bring in Colligan's command and Unbraid.
Well,
so they brought in a lot of removal.
Nicely dodged, though. They dodged the removal. They got over the line. 2-1 to mono black. Thanks a lot, Jay. Everybody, we'll see you on the next one. It's quite impressive.
Yeah.
Could you imagine? Can you imagine?